the sad part, nothing that he did was original necessarily.
No.
It's been kind of done before. We've poked fun at the megachurch for years. They're an easy punching bag.
They have converted that money into influence over people's souls. Over people's souls. They own people's souls. Because when people say you sold your soul, it means you allowed somebody to put you in a position you could not have gotten in without them, and you gave them the leverage to take that away from you, and you are too far in to get out.
While it is a very much easy target and a punching bag and the butt end of a joke for all of the shenanigans and the foolishness that does still occupy our sacred spaces, we need to understand the power and the weight and the responsibility that we still have. Let them laugh.
I can't prove it, but you know that I suspect that we are in illustration where Jesus said, let the wheat grow with the tares. At the last day, he will send forth his angels. They will separate the wheat from the tares. I wonder if we're not in that moment where the angels of the Lord are being sent to point at fruit and call out the lack thereof. And so I think that if we're going to live Antikemi, we're going to have to recognize that some tables we were leaning on may get flipped.
What if I told you you were meant for something more? And what if at first sight your birthright was inked in blood? And what if dominion was written in big bold letters? And what if we shouldn't just occupy but overcome? And what if the observation of opposition was us? Antikemi, the podcast.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Antikemi podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
I am one of your hosts. My name is Jonathan.
I'm Schulz.
And we're so happy yet again that you are here, tuned in with us.
I just got a promotion. I think this is the first time I've been more than half of a host. I didn't expect that. I wasn't ready. I didn't dress right.
Oh, man, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah. I guess we got to work on that intro a little bit.
we don't know exactly like clockwork, but we're getting it.
Right. It kind of like has changed a little bit every single time.
Yeah,
that's all right.
We're
That's
playing
cool.
with
Hey,
it.
we're here. We're us.
Yes, sir.
You is you, and me is me.
I was laughing this week because a YouTuber that I kind of follow, he always started with a double clap and a whoop whoop. And
Okay.
I never knew what was up with that till we started doing this. But then I kind of understood what it was, but I thought, all right, I guess he's leaving it in. That's a choice.
I'm not sure why he's leaving it in. I guess
Well,
it's part
what's
of his
funny,
branding, I
he
guess.
spoke to it.
Oh, really?
He said he just got sick because he said that was basically the only editing he was doing with his style.
Oh.
And he just got sick of it. And so he just decided, no, like the way I start my episodes is with a double clap.
And y'all are going to see that too. Hey, I love
You
it.
don't see it with us, but
No. That's not our style, but that's funny. You know what to do. You need to click the like, add a comment, especially if you have watched the entire episode. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, hear how it's impacting you, just hear what the Lord is sharing with you. So do that. Hit subscribe. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I don't know why you're waiting, because this is one of the best things on the internet.
truly.
At least that's what I've been told.
I don't usually believe my own press,
Yeah.
but I'm sorry. I'm on the internet. This is good.
It's good.
It's good.
I'm not just saying that. I think it's legitimately good. Not only is it good, but it's good for you.
Yes, sir.
It's going to feed your soul, feed your mind, And we're definitely here to facilitate conversations that is going to help you to live Antikemi in a world that is definitely swimming downstream as opposed to pushing against the current.
And share it with somebody that needs to know that there is an option to live the Antikemi life.
Right. You mentioned something earlier that was interesting. You were saying, like, we are in the business with this podcast specifically in intentionally rattling some worldviews. Like, that's not an accident. And if it's happening, praise God. It's happening to us. Why we even kind of got on this platform. Would you not agree?
100% I would agree. And our new friend, Nathan Sanders, who has been
Big supporter of the show.
Big supporter.
Shout out to you, sir.
Definitely edging up to a shout out for weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
He's been shouted out on the DL before. He's the living example of why you should share this with someone specific that you know will, because I'm losing count of how many people have become faithful subscribers because he told them about it and shared it with them. So that's why I say, like, share it with somebody that you know needs this or will connect to it. But anyway, he was laughing on Sunday and said, I don't think he had watched it yet. Maybe he had, busy man, and sometimes he catches up and all that. But he had said something along the lines of, I was getting calls about the.
He mentioned that to me too.
He's like, y'all went left on some folks when they thought you were going to go right. Right. Well, that prompted a thought process for me. I mean, we absolutely knew that was going to happen, and I did think when I was listening to last week's episode, which I happen to believe is actually one of the more important episodes we've ever done.
I would agree.
Not for the legalism of it. That would be the wrong lesson to get from it. But I do. For many reasons, I actually think that in the balance, that's one of the more important episodes we've done. But it is different than what we're usually doing because we're not typically throwing out content that's aimed at, I guess, being. We're controversial. What am I trying to say? We're not normally driving at a particular view of a particular issue. Right. We're normally like, how do you think about the world from a kingdom perspective? How do you analyze? How do you use discernment? How do you connect to the reality of the kingdom of heaven when you're living in the false reality overlay, as what's his name, Pastor Dan Duval says, and that's kind of been more our take. And I don't know that we've even done enough episodes yet to know how unusual last week's episode was or wasn't in the balance, but it's a little unusual for what we've done because we're taking an issue directly head on and going, here's where we stand on it. Right. And I want to kind of encourage our listeners to recognize that is out of the norm of what we have done, but we're not going to do things that are out of character for what we are doing. Yeah. So when we throw the occasional dirty bomb out there, there's purpose behind it. Number one, because we don't do episodes we don't feel we're supposed to do. Like we're being led. Yeah. But also because I think one of the struggles that people are up against is because there is so much noise in the world right now with so many different people telling you that they have the inside scoop on something that you've either been lied to about, deceived. I mean, it gets ridiculous. I don't know how many more times I'm going to watch a stupid, short that tells me that I've been, peeling bananas wrong my whole life, cutting pineapple wrong. I mean, really, like that's the whole thrust of everything.
Yeah.
You've been cracking eggs wrong your whole life. And so first of all, that builds a level of fatigue. Number two, a lot of times they're just baiting you. Like we've definitely learned that. But it also, I think, leads to I see a few different kinds of reactions to it. One of them is people who are blown about by every wind of doctrine. Everything they see upends their whole world, and now they have to.
It's a house of cards.
It really is, because they're just getting, people that are living like that are just getting obliterated right now, because they wake up in a whole new world every 5 minutes.
That's scary.
It's tumbleweed living. There's no roots in that. But then you do see this other kind of reaction, I think, that is probably from fatigue, or in some cases maybe just defensiveness of people that are a little dug in, because they're like, like almost like I can't let go of what I know because it's so turbulent out there that, like.
Well, you spoke to that on Sunday, and you gave, how do I put this? You gave like the bones of what people are scared of. Mm-hmm. Speaking to that very thing, if they were to upend or have a different point of view, or even agree with something so contrary than what their tribe ascribes as their particular belief system, if they even dip their toe in the water of agreeing with that, you've lost your entire tribe, because they're going to turn their back on you, or at least that's what fear is telling their mind. And so they're just, do I got to switch teams all of a sudden? Where am I at? I don't know if I'm coming or going. And so they deal with that fear response almost immediately. So when someone challenges their worldview on what they've maybe been taught their entire life,
right,
that is unnerving. It's terrifying.
Yes.
And so, I mean, like, we just want to, like, speak to that of, like, we get it. We know that can be terrifying.
Yeah, definitely not speak down to it, because, man, I still live it. Like, less, for sure. It gets easier as you go. Yeah. But I still live it. I still especially now that, by God's grace, I am often living life at a higher capacity of awareness. I was going to say self-awareness, but self-awareness is just included. But just a higher awareness level of what is playing out. And so it is a little like I'm living in this body, playing the role that this character was given in this realm. But I'm also watching that play out from a higher plane. That's what it means to be seated with Christ in heavenly places. Right. So I'm also watching that play out. So I'm not just the character, I'm also aware of the character. And as that awareness has increased, I see myself get uncomfortable when I am challenged in areas that I know could lead to me being run out of the herd in my tribe. And that's an uncomfortable feeling. Humans don't like that feeling. No. And that's an area where it's really healthy to lean into the pain, because any tribe that is predicated on agreement with falsehood isn't really a tribe that is beneficial for me to be a part of. And any tribe that's predicated on a firm foundation, that's built on a firm foundation, is going to withstand that level of scrutiny. So what am I holding on to? My membership card? Well, my membership card doesn't have any value if the club it gets me into isn't a club I need to be in, right? Yeah. We are strangers in a strange land. Sometimes that's going to feel lonely.
I loved how Dallas Jenkins in The Chosen illustrated that with some of the tension that he built in into like the characters, especially with the Pharisees.
Yeah.
And so like some of their interactions with Jesus and his disciples, you can tell like there was one character in particular, I'm forgetting his name, extra biblical. He's definitely a creative license, but you can see his interactions with Jesus and his miracles and the disciples were definitely drawing him. Like there was a level of like, I gotta believe what I'm seeing. However, like I know that my tribe of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, like they're not rocking with this at all.
Yeah.
And that's pulling on me stronger than me looking out and seeing something that is rocking everything that is different about how I was like trained,
Yeah.
what I've read, what I've believed my entire life. That happens a lot, especially in the church culture.
I mean, so much so. I think there's a few categories in life where it happens more than almost anywhere else. Not many. One of them is church. Probably the other big one I can think of is politics. But it really is like it's like a petri dish for that experience.
Right.
Religious identity feels, I was going to say it feels safe, but I'm not sure that's true. I think the loss of it feels incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that's the same thing as the identity feeling safe.
Right.
Because anything that's predicated on that much fear.
How safe could it be?
Right.
Right.
So, this is just kind of, I told you earlier, I feel like that episode did what we were hoping it would do, which is it made some people uncomfortable in the best way. When we do that, when we on this podcast lean into an issue and kind of go ride hard for a point of view, I think it's worth saying a few things about what that's about. Because number one, yes, we're doing what we're doing because we believe we're being spirit led to do that. But then following that as the base presupposition, when we do that, our goal actually isn't to make you agree with us, at least for my part. I'm not looking for a bunch of people to come up and say, you completely changed my viewpoint on that. I want to hear people going, well, I'm not sure what the implications of that are. Why are we talking about that? Like that, somebody being that rattled to me is one of the best things if we are on this journey of coming up out of our bondage to this matrix of sin and death that we're all moving through. I think one of the best things that can happen to us is for, especially if it's a voice that we believe has some level of weight or we've built some level of trust with, to throw something at us that challenges our presuppositions about the rules of the world that we think we live in,
Right.
is actually super healthy as long as we learn how to receive that challenge. And that is a big part to me of being able to live the antique of my life. Learning to hold uncomfortable ideas without judgment.
Intention, yeah.
In tension with what we think we know.
Yeah.
And ask the Lord.
You've been one of the best people to champion that idea for me. I want to say I've heard that before, but I don't think I've ever heard it explained quite like I've heard you consistently kind of drill that in a very loving way. And it's you kind of did it like how you did even with the rhythm of the Sabbath for me. It was like, this is like something that I have put a boundary marker in my life that is like, this is not really touchable because this is the best way that I feel that me and my family could be obedient to what the scriptures are saying, right? In the same way, you have like consistently talked about holding ideas very loosely in some ways, but they could be quite opposing. They could be contrasting to one another, but you're not necessarily casting judgment one towards the other. You're kind of allowing the Holy Spirit to really, really bring to the forefront what needs to be like adhered to. People struggle with that. I know I have.
I'm so with you. And I can say to one degree that I've learned, but also in another very real way, I'm learning to trust God, to trust the Holy Ghost, to trust His Spirit in me to bring clarity at the right time.
Yeah.
But the huge temptation is to just spit stuff out, just throw stuff away that makes us feel that uncomfortable. And I think that's often a mistake. Now, I think part of why some of us struggle with being able to hold those tensions and proceed with peace, trusting that He will bring clarity when the clarity is, when I'm ready for it, when He's ready to bring it in my life. But a lot of times I think it's when I'm ready for it. When I'm ready for it, I'll have clarity, because the thing that's keeping me from clarity is some form of fear, typically. But
I don't think you could have walked with Jesus without having that ability.
I think that was happening to those guys every day.
Yeah. Like, they didn't even know sometimes where they would be spending the night.
Right.
It's like, where are you staying, Rabbi? Come see.
And he
Right.
he was unpredictable as, and then there's mobs happening, and those guys had reputations. Some of them had businesses and
Families, wives.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And so if you couldn't have walked with Him then without being able to do that, why would we think you could walk with Him now without being able to do that? Not at a level of intimacy. And so I'm increasingly aware as I go forward in my walk that there's I think one factor that we have to be careful of is, if we are too free with allowing our mind to be constantly bombarded by morons with huge ideas, like by people just throwing stuff at the wall. Last night, I did something I almost never do, which is commented on a when I tell you I almost, it's been a couple of years since I can remember really making a comment.
I thought you were going to say you watched a football game.
Not quite that rare, but close. Yeah. I don't comment in debate environments online. Right. But I did last night because I felt like maybe somebody would run across the comment that needed it.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was two Christian influencers. It was a short, and they were kind of midstream. I think the short was clipped, it looked like, from a longer stream. And they were discussing the NIV versus, the King James, basically.
Diet Bible.
Yeah. And it was from,
I'm joking.
Matthew? Is it what chapter of Matthew where Jesus says this kind comes not out?
Between but by prayer and fasting.
Yeah.
And they were debating on those verses being
that one verse
added
25, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't in the NIV, and they're so it go the way that in their print Bible, the way that it was reading was verse. I think it was verse 22. So it was verse 21, and then in brackets was verse 22 with a lowercase a next to it, and then it just went straight to verse 23. So you had 21, 23.
Right.
But there was that little bracketed 22 and the little a. And they were just having their minds blown that, my God, like, I didn't believe people that said that these translations are leaving passages out, but it's right. Like, how are you going to just skip a verse number and all of this? And people in the comments it was going everywhere from Mandela effect. People were just spinning out.
Somebody blamed Constantine.
Right. Oh, no doubt. And it frustrated me because, and I made the statement, I said, I don't know their hearts. It may just be ignorance,
Right.
but it also may be engagement farming. I said, I don't know which it is because I don't know them. But I said, let's be charitable and assume ignorance. If they would have just looked at the A and went to Google and said, what does it mean when there's a letter A next to something in a Bible? You know what I mean? Like, learn how to read a book.
Yeah.
Because if they would have just dropped to the bottom of the page, they would have seen that there's a footnote that says some manuscripts include, and then it would have had the scripture, the verse you're talking about, right there. And I'm not saying that in defense of the NIV. None of that. That's none of what this conversation is. The NIV is not my main translation, but the point is that's fear, and you're scaring people. You're confusing people. It's so simple. Yeah. Ancient manuscripts were copied by hand under all kinds of different circumstances, using the best sources they had available to them, and not all of them are exactly the same. The message is completely the same.
It's cohesive, yes.
Sometimes there's a verse or a little passage that's omitted or placed a little differently or whatever. And when translators sit down to make a translation, they choose a set of manuscripts to work from. It's that simple.
It's that simple.
It really is that simple. I'm not saying no funny business has ever been played. Funny business has been played. That's why the Bible says I am against the lying pen of the scribes. So funny business gets played, but not everything is funny business. Right. And that was not funny business. That was translators faithfully working off a manuscript. And so I just made that comment. I was like, guys, before you panic, just know the verbiage they're looking for is literally at the bottom of the page, printed a little smaller with a note that says that one wasn't in this manuscript. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the point is when we let, and I'm not calling them morons. I said morons with big opinions, and then I called out a specific instance. I'm not calling them morons. What I am saying though, is that the blind really can't lead the blind, and you not everybody can teach. Like, just not everybody can teach you, and so for one thing, be careful not to let. I'm not saying any of the people listening to this are, but I'm saying it to me too. Be careful not to let so many voices in with so many big opinions about how many books there are in the Bible, which denomination is be careful, because sometimes by the time you get challenged in the right way, you've already got challenge fatigue, and you're already, you know what I mean?
That's good.
You don't
challenge
have the
fatigue.
bandwidth.
Yeah.
And so if we keep if we try to keep the noise down so that our minds can be as clear as possible in all of that, when the right challenge comes, it's actually super healthy. And the value isn't necessarily in all of us coming to the same viewpoint. I'm kind of the opinion that if a Bible-believing Christian honestly digs and examines and compares and evaluates and allows the word to speak for itself, at this point in history, with as much documentation as we have and the level of scholarly work we have available to us and all of that, kind of the opinion that most people that really dig on the Sabbath issue are going to kind of wind up somewhere around where we are. I am. But if they don't, I'm confident that if we can keep the right spirit and be able to receive a challenge without letting it destroy our peace, we will all be better for having had the discussion. We will be closer to him. We will know his word better. We will be more conversant with each other. We'll understand where each other are coming from. And one of the comments that I heard was, isn't that kind of like a Seventh-day Adventist? Isn't that what that is? And I get that. That is a fair comment.
Yeah.
Because it's funny when you and I were sitting here thinking, because that hasn't really been my experience of who represents that. I know they do. But my experience of who represents the Seventh-day Sabbath worldview has more been either just Jews, because I grew up around that, or
Hebrew roots,
Hebrew Israelites, Messianic believers. That's been more my experience. And of those, Hebrew Israelites and Hebrew roots particularly tend to have some concerning elements for me that I'm not. I kind of felt the way the person commenting about the Seventh-day Adventists probably felt, like, I don't know about that.
Right.
But at a point, I had to be willing to go, forget the tribe. What about the idea? What about the challenge, the flag that's been thrown on the plate? Is there anything to that? Because that's, to me, the matrix in motion. When we hear an idea and our mind immediately goes to, I don't think that's my tribe.
There you go.
There it is. That's the little trick that's been played on us. We think that there are taboo concepts and ideas we're not allowed to engage with because that's not the colors on our jersey.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the matrix.
Yeah. So much has been stolen from the Christian playbook by the enemy, by New Age,
100%.
by the occult. Like, just plagiarized, completely stolen, rebranded, and put a Baphomet on top of the page with the concept. And it's like, you didn't even come up with that.
Yeah.
That's a God idea.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, that was a God concept, how he's interacted with his creation in the universe. You don't get a chance to steal that away.
Right.
We mentioned a while ago, like, the concept of even, like, meditation. Like, that was a God idea.
Yeah.
That has been completely co-opted by the enemy and Eastern mysticism. So now, like you said, like we have such a Pavlovian dog response to the word works.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, you're trying to buy your salvation. No, we're not.
Yeah.
We're just reading the text and what it says. Like, how can we get so far away from what the black and white pages tell us just because it's been presented to us wrong, and in a very cartoonish way sometimes because they have ulterior motives, I think. But we gotta read, man.
Yeah,
We gotta read.
we got to read. Learn how to read. Truth can't be stricken from the menu. In other words, the way God set things up, truth is always going to be available. So one of the options for the deceiver was not the eradication of all truth. He would have loved that.
Yeah.
But
It made his job a lot easier, right?
right. Except for the uncomfortable fact that the eradication of all truth would be the eradication of the very universe he's trying to take over. And so he's stuck with the Logos. I mean, he's trying to hijack the world that is framed by it. So he can't. It's like mutually assured destruction. He can't destroy that because there'll be no kingdom left to. He'll disappear.
Yeah.
So the option was not eradicate all truth. So there had to be a different mechanism, and one of the big components of that, I believe, has been to subdivide truth down to the tiniest shards he could get it into, hand little tiny pieces of it to different tribes, get them to form their identity around that one truth, and then, of course, cover it over with as much lies, confusion, deceit, deception as he could, and then get everybody within each tribe so hyper-focused on the one little nugget of truth they have that they can't see the whole, manure pile of deception on top of it.
Yeah.
But make sure that everybody else in every other tribe can only see the manure tribe in the manure pile in all the other tribes. Am I doing it?
No, you're good.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that you wind up in this situation where all these people are clinging to these. You've got the king's children. Jesus said to the Syrophoenician woman, "Is it good to take the bread from the children's table and feed it to the dogs?" And she said, as we know, "No, Lord, but even the dogs get to eat the crumbs." But in this perverse matrix of sin and death, as it has developed out, you have the father's children crawling around on the floor, holding on to crumbs.
Oh, my goodness.
And forming their whole identity around it and telling each other, "You don't have any, we have it all." "No, you don't have any, we have it all." Because right here, look, it's right here. I've got this crumb.
Ooh.
And just above our heads is a feast
Master's
laid.
table.
The master's table. And so ideas become associated in our minds with tribes. And when it's not our tribe, we think the idea automatically must be disqualified. And so that's why I say, I think it's really important for people who are getting on board with the Antikemi fifth column that are wanting to sign up for active duty in this, to say, I want to represent this movement within the kingdom, for the kingdom, and advance the kingdom against the other kingdom. I think it's important for us to learn how to hear a challenge and be okay with the discomfort of it, and be at peace that the God that has given us as much truth as we have and brought us as far as we have will hold us in that truth and keep us in that truth, and that and realize that that our membership in the kingdom is not always the same thing as our card that lets us into the tribe, that lets us into the club. We can lose a club membership, or here's one, we can acknowledge that some other people may be in the kingdom that don't go to the same club we do, that don't have our membership. And also we can be aware that just because we see all the deception in their tribe so clearly, that doesn't mean that there isn't a nugget that they're holding on to. And if that is true, that nugget doesn't belong to that tribe. It belongs to the Father. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
So that's what I think how growth for me in the last, it's going back years now, has largely come as I have been able to surrender my interest in the preservation of the tribe and my standing in it, and just practiced examining fruit and holding concepts up to the measure of his truth and seeing how it shakes out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being willing to accept whatever the ramifications of that outcome are. Not only willing, the more you do it, the more eager you become. Really, we didn't get to the good stuff about Sabbath last time. It reminds me so much of the multiplication of the loaves and fishes. Both times it happened, and both times there were baskets and baskets of leftovers to take up. When you're dealing with kingdom principles, they are so rich and so nutritious that you and your audience will eat to your fill, and there will just be more left over.
You got to go.
Then you got right.
Right.
And I'd love someday to come back and go into some of the really good stuff. But if I've learned anything about this walk of waking up and remembering who we are, what we represent, how we're meant to interface with this realm that we're in,
Right.
it's that it does take, that process takes time, not because God is slow, but because human beings, it's a process for us to have our worldview shattered, which results in a shattering of the ego and our understanding of who we are and what our identity is, and walk with that for long enough to be able to reintegrate it and move forward and be at peace again in a reality that has shifted for us. And that's just a process. And so I've learned when a dirty bomb like that gets lobbed at me, I've learned to kind of be excited, because I'm like, well, I don't know where this will take me.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling growth is coming, and I have a feeling a higher awareness and walking in a higher dimension is coming.
Paradigm shifts can certainly accelerate growth. I'm a student of that, of allowing myself to be challenged. That's the point of having a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. I mean, you have, even in the business world, sometimes that business coach their entire job is just identifying where you're stuck at or where you have a non-growth limiting belief about yourself or about whatever project or whatever goal, and just working on you working past that alone. Because, man, our human mind is so powerful, and it can really play to our advantage or disadvantage very easily, depending on what we are subscribing to, whatever belief system we're subscribing to.
That kind of goes that Tiger Woods has never been coached by somebody that could successfully play around against him, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But certainly not a championship. But that's not really why he needs a coach. He needs a coach who can watch him from the outside, who can stand at a distance and observe and go, you know what? I'm noticing you could tighten this up. You could, just because he's better at it than that guy is, doesn't mean that guy can't look at him and see where he could
100%.
improve again.
100%.
So I just felt like it was worth it to just stop for a minute and go, don't worry about it. If last episode threw you for the biggest loop in the world, don't worry about it. The win for me would be if you can integrate that challenge. You don't have to even wrestle through it right now. If you're not ready to deal with that issue, don't deal with it right now. But just don't throw it away because it made you uncomfortable.
Right.
Just put a pin in it. If you're not ready to deal with it right now, just put a pin in it and go, that made me feel weird, and keep walking. If you can get that much growth out of it, that's big. There's a lot of things I do that with because I know I'm not I just am not ready to stare that dog in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I just go, okay. And sometimes it's 2 years later, 3 years later, and the domino drops.
And you're like, okay, the last piece needed to fall.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then I'm glad I didn't throw the thing away.
Right. Right. To kind of shift gears a little bit, but on the same vein.
Oh, shift. So dumb.
If we have our tribes, right? We have our affiliations, our groups.
Yes.
And the one that we represent is the church, being kingdom citizens.
Yes.
I'm finding that it's becoming not only targeted, but my question is, why is it so easy to become a target for ridicule, for negative connotations and labels to be attached? Like the punchline, like it's so easy to do that with, I would say, not just the American church, because I've seen it really, really hit home in a lot of the antics, especially in the African.
I knew you were going there.
The African church. I mean, my God, I've seen a lot.
We pick on the West because that's us, but
Right.
they got a whole other thing going on.
Absolutely. So when it comes to, let's just say, Christianity as a whole, the umbrella of Christianity, why do you feel like that is a particular tribe that is such a subject of like ridicule?
This kind of relates to your question last week about why is the Sabbath so hard
Yeah.
to interact with, to implement. holy things, sacred things are different. I think we're going to get to some other stuff, but because some of that other stuff is going to be pretty self-effacing and you know, we're not going to pull our punches and pretend that we don't have mess, right? Like some of what we're going to talk about why we're easy to pick on is because we deserve it, right? Yeah. So like this is more my preface to that, because I want to make sure that it's clear.
We're not tone deaf.
Yeah, I mean, and also we're in this thing.
Yeah.
Like this is us we're talking about. So this is not, but what I guess what I was going to say is, you know, Jews have had this internal discussion for a long time. Why, when we integrate in societies, in nations where we are citizens, when it's America, we feel like we're American. When it's Poland, we were Polish. Like we were Polish Jews, yeah, but France is an example. We were French, but there are Basques in France. They're just French. Like, yeah, there's an ethnicity there, but they're just French because they live in France and that's where they come from. And you know what I mean? Everywhere we've gone to us, we've been them. Like we integrate, but from their point of view, we're never them. Like we're kind of them, yeah, but we're also them.
We're othered.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Big thing in this country, Jews were not allowed in country clubs until very, very, very recently. That's why it's a little funny to us sometimes, the concept of us like we are the hidden hand, we're the ones running the whole thing. It doesn't feel that way. But we have tended to make lemonade out of those lemons. And there are gifts that come into play there. But there's other stuff that's come into play. But the point is, so we started our own country clubs. And then everybody wanted into our country clubs. And so now we do kind of run the best country clubs. And, you know what I mean?
Now you own the country club.
So there's like a whole thing there, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's an internal discussion. Why aren't we them? Because they'll come to our banks, they'll do our all that's great, but we're not at their table. Why are we not at their table? Why are we them but not really? We're them with an asterisk. Even though to us there's no asterisk. Because the thing that really got Jews confused was after we threw God away, we became totally secularized during the quote unquote Enlightenment. And kind of led the charge on secularization, because we all know there's nobody more all in for the enemy's camp than a backslider. You know what I mean? So so we were like, you can't get more secular than us. So we can't be God. Like what in the world? And the truth is, and I was taught this growing up in my parents' home, the truth is, it is God. Because when he marks you, you can turn your back on him, but they'll still see him behind your back. You don't have to live for him to represent him to the world. You may be a terrible representation, but the very fact of your existence is an uncomfortable reminder. Ooh. Maybe not to you, but to them.
them.
Because you don't get to erase his mark. You were marked. You can erase your worship. You can erase your loyalty. You can erase your belief. You can erase as much of your history as you possibly can, but you can't erase his mark. And so when people look at you, they see something that you may not even see anymore. You represent something they don't want to confront. So it is my belief that despite all of their best efforts to integrate fully with the world around them, that was an impossibility from the word go. I'm going to say a similar thing about the church, because I think no matter how poorly we do at it, no matter how divided we are amongst ourselves, no matter how desperately we betray the sanctity of the message that we're called to represent, the very fact of the Lord Jesus Christ, himself the chief cornerstone. We may have built on it with as Paul said, straw and mud, you know. We may not have built like a wise builder. We may have been foolish in what we constructed on that foundation, but the foundation is there nonetheless. The cornerstone is there nonetheless. So I think fundamentally, before we say all the like stuff about what we do to deserve being easily mocked, they hate him. And something in the human heart that is geared toward rebellion loves to find opportunity to take shots at him and what he is building. So I don't know if that's the answer you were expecting or looking for. I think we're probably going to have a really good conversation about some of the stuff we do that plays right into it.
Yeah.
But I thought it might be worth starting from the point of view that we're marked. Whether we represent it right or not.
That's good.
Because Jesus Christ is the cornerstone of his church, you can't affiliate yourself with Christendom without, he said, they're going to hate you.
Yep.
They hated me. They're going to hate you. And he said it for my sake. Yeah. So I thought, let's start there and just acknowledge that we're never going to graduate taking cheap shots from all comers, because Jesus Christ himself started this thing. And in case anybody forgot, he's not popular down here.
Yeah.
But there's another layer. But is that where you thought I was going to go? Or?
No, it's not.
So,
and I love it because that definitely puts a good foundation of like, well, we could spend all day long dissecting all of the reasons why the target is on our backs and the things that we do specifically to facilitate that level of ridicule happening. But even if we were to walk everything out, play by all the rules, be so perfect, polished, dress right, wouldn't matter, because they are going to hate you.
You will be hated by all men.
There is something that is marking us. We know what that is. But we as the church, the bride, that's part of being without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. Set apart, like, it's not easy sometimes feeling othered.
Right.
But I think the faster that we understand that assignment, the faster we're able to navigate all of the different obstacles that we're going to face.
Yeah, the sooner we make our peace with that, there are some issues we need to resolve, but the result is not going to be that we stop being othered.
Yeah.
That's where to start from.
Right.
But then let's have a conversation. Like, why are we taking so much flack?
So, and we've already said we're not going to, base these type of episodes around like current events. But this is something that is like ongoing, and the noise is getting louder and louder.
Yes.
And so, like, controversial sake, there's a comedian, he does skits. And recently he portrayed
Betrayed or portrayed?
What'd I say?
I didn't know. I was actually asking.
Yeah,
Did you say betrayed or portrayed?
Oh, portrayed.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it was that much of a betrayal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I just wanted to know what you were about.
It was a portrayal for sure.
Yeah.
And he was definitely poking fun at megachurch, mega pastors and mega churches. And the antics are just through the roof.
Yeah, but the biggest antic, arguably, when he flew in on the pulleys, that's just a
been
thing we
done.
do.
It's been done before.
Like multiple times.
Yes. And I mean, even so that I have a standing joke
Running joke.
in our staff meeting of like every event, like, what are we going to have?
Is this the one, Pastor?
Yeah, is this the one where you're going to come down from the ceiling, make your entrance, on the platform?
Hell will freeze over.
But like you said, it's been done in all seriousness.
Going back to the 90s at least.
And we're not just talking about a demographic of a white church or a black church.
Right.
Because we have that separation inside the organization. Like,
Yeah.
we could get that to later why that's happening.
Yeah.
But I've seen it in the black church. The first time I saw it was a black pastor in a predominantly black church coming down from the ceiling, illustrating
funny.
Jesus's return.
If Jesus comes down on pulleys, I want my money back. I'm going to customer service.
Right. So the first time I saw that was in the quote unquote black church. And
First time I saw it was definitely white church.
Okay, so what was
I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Big fundamentalist Baptist preacher that did that at a youth conference, I think.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's definitely been done. So for
Yeah.
him to come down from the ceiling with the pulley, it's not even far fetched.
No, that's just like he just did a
It's
thing
a
we
parody,
do.
right?
Yeah.
Completely. The offering lines.
Too close for comfort. He didn't really do anything that hasn't been done.
Most of the discourse that I'm seeing from people responding right now is at least acknowledging that. Like, a lot of what he said
He got in some good singers just because he did the stuff we do.
absolutely true.
Yeah.
It
Those were
wasn't even like-
reenactments.
Yeah, it was like, when does the skit start? You know what I mean? It's like, when does the parody start? Because you tune in to any one of these streams on a Sunday morning, you might see some of these shenanigans happening, right?
Can I tell you something that occurred to me while I was watching that?
Yeah.
It occurred to me that if he was doing this, if he was a pastor and he was doing this unironically, which this is a theme with his particular brand of comedy, a lot of times he just portrays
Real life.
real life hilariously. Like it was already funny,
Yeah.
but it's funny to see somebody doing it that you know is doing a bit.
Right.
That's really the only joke.
Yeah, you're right.
But, and I did not find that I don't know about you, but I didn't find that real unreservedly funny. Like I had my moments where I was like, whew, okay.
Yeah.
But that being said, there were some pretty funny moments. And what occurred to me was if he was a pastor and he was doing these things unironically, not everything he did, but at least half of what he did, if not more, maybe 2/3, you would have got down in the comments, and there, of course, there would have been people crying aloud and sparing not, for sure. But there would have been a lot of people saying, touch not mine anointed.
Woo!
You weren't there. You don't know his heart.
Pastor, boy, you are so right. He would have had the mobs in the comment
Riding hard for him.
riding super hard. Don't you dare speak about the man of God
Yeah.
like that.
You know it would have.
That's an element I didn't even think about. That's so
It made
funny.
me uncomfortable.
Oh my God, that's cringy to think.
Yeah, it is. I'm cringing now.
Everything that he did inside this skit, I found humor in, with the exception of what?
I know which one's going to be, I think.
Oh, do you?
Just, I'm going to wait, but I'll be honest.
Yeah, that was one, because as soon as he said it, I was like, all right, we're not playing about
And
that.
then the third or fourth time he said it.
Yeah, so it's like, nah, brother, we're not playing with that, because that is sacred.
Is he a believer?
I don't know.
Because I don't know that a non-believer would know that. That doesn't make it okay, but there could be a level of ignorance.
I think that he has a faith process.
Okay.
I would like to assume that he's been exposed to a level of church in his life, obviously.
Yeah, clearly.
Right. But I want to say, like, that he's personally experienced, like, not just like
he's had an encounter of something.
Right. But some of the, like, I've seen him in a couple other things where it's just a caricature of the church. It's not actual. It's like every movie that they like do, like the church. It's always over the top. But I get it, because there's a lot of stuff that we do that if you are not properly introduced to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked about that on this past Sunday. Like, the Pentecostal apostolic experience is not something that can just be observed from the outside looking in without context.
Right.
And you'll either leave with curiosity or contempt.
Right.
There's really not a lot of room for the middle.
Yep.
Like, you're either, okay, I want to experience a little bit more of that, or no, that's...
And it also often doesn't play well on screen.
Yeah.
I've actually been very uncomfortable watching what I strongly suspect were genuine moves of God.
That's so good. But you see it on screen and you're like,
And if it makes me cringe and I grew up in it,
right.
I'm not sure that's meant for the screen.
I have 100% experienced things in rooms where you can feel the tangible weight and manifestation of the presence of God that is giving his stamp and seal of approval of whatever's taking place as far as a gift in operation.
Yes.
And then see that same type of ordeal, like you said, on the screen, and I know the fruit of the house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is obviously not staged. This is not something that I feel is inauthentic.
Right.
But it still kind of made you...
It feels weird.
It feels very weird. Like, it should not have been clipped.
And I always think when I
broadcasted.
see that or hear that, if you had not ever had any experience with this, you would just write this off as whacked. Not the snort.
Oh, my, I'm just imagining somebody who doesn't have all of our life experience inside the house of God.
Yeah.
I guess I grew up in it. I don't know a life of being an adult without that frame of reference and being exposed to that. Like, I just don't have that. But I can only imagine what somebody who is like, these people are crazy.
Yeah, they have lost the plot.
Right. They are stark raving mad.
And Paul said that in 1 Corinthians.
Yeah.
He said that. People are going to think you're lunatics. Like, chill out. Have some decorum.
I was like, what are you doing? Oh, my gosh.
But you can tell, you're clearly talking about the same thing I'm talking about. The part where you were like, oh, I'm not on board here.
Right. So, let's just talk about it. Well, actually, before we get to that, we could, the money lines in the offering, several offerings, and how we treated money, that unfortunately is pretty accurate in a lot of ways.
Yep.
It made me sad, but it's very true. Even how he ended the skit, he always ends his skit with some level of like twist, I guess you could say.
Yeah, the end was intense. But I get it.
I do too.
I get it.
And I mean, it has like the pastor inside the Bentley, and a church parishioner is like, hey, can you pray for my wife? And his response is like, did you pay tithes? And the guy's like, well, no. And he's like, get out my face, as he peels away, get your hand off my car.
I think he drops an F-bomb.
He does. It's like,
well, Christians are going to be offended at the F-bomb. What's your take on that bit? That particular part of the bit.
The F-bomb is not the problem.
No, but that is what Christians are going to get hung up on.
And that's the sad part, is that they are probably going to be focused on the language and completely miss the spirit and heart posture behind something that needs to be addressed. Like, as a shepherd, I'm not saying that you are held hostage by every encounter with somebody that you happen to have. But that heart posture of like, have you given or paid your way to allow me to give you any bit of my time right now? Or the material object is so near and dear to my heart, like don't touch my car. That's sad.
He's a comedic genius, in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
Not every comic is. I think he is. Comedic geniuses have layers, and not everybody's always going to get all the layers, but I felt like one of the layers there is his choice of the term "my car." For a pastor whose support is drawn from the Lord's tithe, to say to a member of the flock or a guest or anybody, get your hands off my car. The heart posture of I thought he was pointing at. There's the heart posture of the car, for sure. That's questionable.
Yeah.
Certainly the heart posture of, are you a tithe payer before I decide whether I'll pray with you about, that's questionable. But I thought the idea of my car was pretty observant on his part. I do think that is the idea with a lot of us. Yeah. And I think that's really bad and really dangerous. And I'm going to say something that is probably going to hurt some people's feelings. I don't believe God is that offended by cussing. It's not great. It's not a great habit. I'm not saying anybody should be doing it.
Right.
Cussing is a cultural thing. It can be cursing. It's not usually cursing. If anybody ever looks into it with any level of
real integrity,
nuance, integrity, intellectual, you're going to realize the whole idea of cussing is more rooted in classism than it is rooted in anything else. That's just honestly the historical facts of how that developed. Is people who didn't want their kids to sound like the kids on the other side of town type of thing, you know. But leave that where it is. Bottom line, I don't believe God is as offended as we are about cussing. I don't think Christians should be using a word that references the intimate act in a carnal way anyway.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't consider that healthy communication, certainly not for a believer, right? So I'm not advocating use of the F word. I just think that, I do kind of think the guy's a comedic genius, and I think he knew what he was doing, throwing that word in right there. I think that he knew that he was going to trigger a lot of Christians to talk about that.
Yep.
And that's going for the bait, because the truth is that the thing that God would be offended by, of anything in what was being talked about there, is that this young man who may be a believer, may not, may be early in the stages of being a believer, may be somewhere in deconstructing, I don't know, wherever he is in his walk, and all of the people drawn to his voice are bleeding out because they are being addressed by a church that has centered the wrong things, and is it's like, I don't know how to even adequately say what I'm trying to say, but it's like the comment, and he knew this going into it, that the comments underneath that skit were going to be exhibit A for the mindset he's addressing and making fun of. Because I know that the most offensive thing that he was highlighting is this attitude of the Levite who crosses to the other side of the street because he's in a hurry to go serve at the temple, the priest who doesn't want to defile his hands, he's talking about something real. If we're honest, he's talking about something real. This is a thing that happens. It's not occasionally. It happens a lot. He's pointing at a real thing, and the fact that so many of us are going to be offended by something else, something in his presentation, really points to the problem.
Yeah. The other, before we get to the one thing that I think was definitely crossing a line, I don't know how you felt about it. I'm going to impregnate you with the word.
Then he did like an Oprah goes to church kind of
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
The sad part is that I have heard eerily similar phrasing that sounded just as sexual, charged, just as inappropriate, whatever adjective you want to throw inside there, over the pulpit as that. And like that wasn't even parody as much as it was him just repeating or remixing something that has been said before. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was, his name is just escaping me. It's the late pastor from New Birth.
Oh, really?
You know what I'm talking about?
That died during COVID?
Was it during COVID?
Is that no? Let's just look it up.
I'm almost positive that is who I am referring to.
We're just tapping away.
Yeah. Bishop Eddie Long.
I guess he died before COVID.
Yeah, he died before. Bishop
20,
Eddie,
probably 2017, something like that.
Bishop Eddie Long had made a statement very, very close to that.
Why is that not surprising?
And I'm not saying that Druski specifically referenced that, but yeah, I went ahead and said his name.
I'm just laughing because we have just hit the name dropping section of the.
I mean, it is what it is. We out here in this, we gonna snatch you into this deep water with
We
us.
don't drop names a lot.
Yeah.
I think the last time we did it was Charlie Kirk. Tonight it's Druski and Bishop Eddie Long. When we do, we do.
And not to disparage Eddie Long,
No, that's tragic.
but yeah, that he definitely had some things that he definitely struggled with.
Well, the way my brain works, I went to James 1:21, which
you went
is
to the
where
Bible.
well, it's where I
Yeah.
think that idea may derive from.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Therefore, putting aside all filthiness and all that remains of wickedness, in humility receive the word implanted, which is able to save your souls. There is this idea of Jesus even said the word is the seed.
yeah.
Or the seed is the word. So there is an idea there, but it's been, I think you're correct, that it has been for the purpose of being a shock jock, and pastors struggle with that, especially pastors who get on TV and feel like they need to, or social media, and feel like they need to drive views. They struggle with just being outrageous for the sake of being outrageous, and I kind of thought, I think he's making fun of stuff that probably has kind of happened. Obviously, what he's doing, gyrating from the pulpit and saying you'll get impregnated, obviously that is inappropriate. But I don't know if people are too dumb to realize this.
Yeah,
he's being inappropriate on purpose. He's trying to point out hyperbolically.
Well, that's not even hyperbolic. If looking up the quote,
No, is it that bad?
yes, he was talking about it's the preacher's job to deliver fresh sperm,
No.
the word of God that the church, the womb, receives. I remember it was significant. It was controversial. This is like back in 2010. Like, so it was a long time ago, but
I quit.
I remember this. And I remember thinking, like, that is not the way that should ever be preached or talked about. It was overtly sexual, right? And so when Druski said that, I was like, oh my God. And this is why I think that he is referencing that, because he's out of Atlanta. And so, like, that was a big thing inside Atlanta during that time.
I'm cooked. I can't. I can't.
And so it's like, it's not even far. He's basically saying,
Just quoting
I'm
pastors.
just
at
quoting,
this point.
he's a mega pastor, right? And I mean, come on, back in the day, like, he was definitely attached to, like, the quote unquote mega pastor, like, stereotype.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? That we had, we thought of mega pastors. He's one of the names that would immediately kind of come up. But yeah, like, it was just one thing after the other. But then where I thought that it completely kind of crossed the line was the Christian Dior and the Louis Vuitton comment.
Don't make fun of the blood.
Yeah. Why he's wearing red bottoms is because he's walking in the blood of Jesus. Which, to me, I get the joke.
I do.
But it was so, like, that one fell so flat, not only because he's touching something that's sacred, that, of course, like, hard stop. We don't play around with the blood of Jesus. I don't do that. But it didn't even make sense theologically at all, because specifically the blood went over the doorpost and not
You're
on
not
the
supposed to
threshold,
trample it.
because you don't trample the blood of Jesus. So it's like what you were trying to do doesn't even make sense.
But this is where
Yeah.
my question about how much of a comedic genius he is comes in. Because I sat with that and I thought, is he enough of a genius that he's actually trying to low key say, like, in your rush to defend your hyper materialism, you are trampling the blood. Like, I was sitting there with, is this?
I don't know if we
guy-
give him that much credit, but that is genius if he is. But what made me sad was the comments of people like, this is like, that's a bar. Like, that's a bar. I got to use that. Like, yes, that's why I do what I do, because I'm a Christian and I walk in the blood. I'm like, you don't walk in the blood. What?
Please tell me those were bots.
I don't think they were. I really don't. It was comment after comment after comment of people
I'm getting lightheaded.
highlighting that particular, and that just shows that we have such a deficit in the body of people that I would like to think that they would consider themselves believers and Christians. But do they really believe that we as believers are walking in the blood of Jesus? Like, I guess it's a false dichotomy of pleading the blood, covered in the blood, and so I'm walking in the blood.
I mean, we've just lost all discernment, and then we've known that for a while, but this is like end stage, you know. Not everything that sounds Christian-y, not everything that sounds truthy,
Right.
it's
Right.
not all truth, and it's not all. Just because someone takes a text does not mean they are preaching the word.
Say that again.
I mean, come on, body of Christ. Like, somewhere you have got to. If you were babies, you would eat rat poison. Like, you are running around here like toddlers, putting everything in your mouth. People are going to have to, in this hour, invest enough effort into their soul's condition to be able to distinguish. I'm dumbfounded.
And that's what I think really, really, like, made me tremendously sad in the midst of all of the obvious chuckles. But it's like, man, people really don't get it.
Here's what overall, and I know, like, we're not going to get invited to any parties after this. Like, this is our commentary on a comedy sketch. But, like, I did chuckle. There were definitely moments where I chuckled in that, and I'm definitely not mad at Druski.
Right.
I whispered a prayer for him when he was doing the blood bit. I was like, okay, bro, like, you're skating the line. Like, I get what you're trying to do, but, you know, you just don't want people to play around and find out. Because I think God has way more of a sense of humor than Christians do. And I think he is probably, I'm not even going to say probably, I guarantee you he is way more offended by the things that Druski is pointing at rightly than he is
being prevalent.
right.
Sure.
He's way more offended at the church than he is at the guy calling out the church. But you also, like, sacred things are sacred. And so, like, it's kind of like joking with a guy about his wife.
That's exactly what it's like. That's exactly what it's
There's a line.
Yeah.
And you got to know what it is or you get popped in the mouth.
Right.
You go from laughing to, you know what I mean? Real quick. And that's where I'm like, oh, okay, Father, help him out. Because that was a roller coaster, and that particular twist wasn't my favorite.
Right.
But on the whole, 1 Samuel 2, verse 12 says, now the sons of Eli, the high priest, were worthless men. They did not know the Lord, and the customs of the priests with the people. So they did not know the Lord and the custom of the priests with the people. When any man was offering a sacrifice, the priest's servant would come while the meat was boiling with a three-pronged fork in his hand. Then he would thrust it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot, and all that the fork brought up the priest would take for himself. Thus they did in Shiloh to all the Israelites who came there. Fair is fair. You don't muzzle the ox, right? You plunge in the fork, and God decides what comes up on it, and that's the priest's portion.
Right.
Also, before they burned the fat, the priest's servant would come and say to the man who was sacrificing, give the priest meat for roasting, as he will not take boiled meat from you, only raw. If the man said to him, they must surely burn the fat first and take as much as you desire, then he would say, no, but you shall give it to me now. If not, I will take it by force. Thus the sin of the young men was great, very great before the Lord, for the men despised the offering of the Lord. Another translation says, for they caused the people to despise the offering of the Lord. Here's the thing. God had made provision for the priests to be able to take a part of the offering, but they didn't want a part. They wanted the part they wanted. They wanted the well-marbled stuff. They wanted the good stuff. They wanted the Bentley. And so what offended God bad enough to kill them was that their ignorant selfishness caused the people to despise the Lord's offering. And I've just never been able to think.
I know exactly where you're going. That's so good.
It's exactly what we do in this present church as business culture. That's what we do. And
we make so light of the blood of Jesus.
God wasn't mad at the people that despised the Lord's offering. He was mad at the priests that made them despise it, that caused them to despise it.
Yeah.
So on one level, you should be able to chuckle at yourself, but at another level, I think the fact that a comic can make that much hay out of what we do ought to lead to a level of introspection, and it's really dumb that Christians are piling on him. For what? For what? For saying the truth?
Has that been like what you've seen? Because I've seen actually a lot of people like, hey, I kind of agree with what he's saying.
I've seen some of both.
But let's kind of transition our focus on some of the other aspects that are, true as well. Like the church definitely has some issues and some problems. However, let's also point to all the different things that are good.
I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, that our church hurt that kind of humor and that kind of discussion helps them cauterize their conscience. And I think that's one of the things that makes it really serious, that we need to address the things that are fair in what somebody like that is saying, because we need to pray for them that they will be unsuccessful in their ability to use our faults to make an excuse for their walking out on Jesus.
Right.
Because I was there, I get that. I've used those excuses, but I'm the one that got hurt from that. Like, you can't separate from the Lord and his church without you being the one that pays the price ultimately. So we want to pray for the ones that are going to find justification in it for their decision to, as Lecrae said, let a church hurt become a God wound.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think that it also should really put a level of light of fire under us to take the Antikemi fight to our own house.
That's my point. Exactly.
To say, man, we can't be giving the enemy that much fodder.
Like,
I'm not calling Druski the enemy.
No. I'm
saying the
like,
enemy of his soul. The enemy of,
whatever spirit behind, like, let's target the foolishness. And I'm not putting it past the Lord in his mercy allowing or even prompting in a lot of ways, like, hey, this person has a level of influence. Let's point out the shenanigans to clean this up, because this is not going to be tolerated. And you're not hearing it from my prophets. You're not hearing it from within your ranks, because there is a lot of voices right now that have been saying very similar things. Get your house in order. Judgment starts at the house of God. Let's focus on what we need to focus on. Let's stop making it about programs and productions and glitz and glamour. There has to be a level of separation between the church and the world. We're called out. We should be holiness. Holiness is still right. Like, those voices are still very much crying out, but I think they've been largely ignored by a lot of people. And now you have somebody who is considered on the outside, not necessarily a representative of the church, pointing at the same exact things. Like, the sad part, nothing that he did was original necessarily.
No.
It's been kind of done before. We've poked fun at the megachurch for years. They're an easy punching bag. But my goodness gracious, how long are we going to allow that to kind of continue to fester? And this is, I think, why we are doing what we're doing. And I love the direction that our local church is kind of taking in this next season of, like, recognizing, like, hey, we got to be different, set apart in a ways, and that's going to consist of a lot of different methods. And maybe we're going to do church a lot differently. Maybe the way that we have, and I love that. I saw this one comment, and he says, like, yeah, the world is, like, laughing at us because we're so afraid to go back to how the early church actually chose to gather. Like, man, they were They were really gathering under a level of persecution, but edifying and fellowshipping with one another, breaking bread, really feeding the homeless, doing things that like mattered in the community. And I'm not saying that we don't have those aspects right now. There's a lot of mega churches doing a lot of great things, feeding
sure.
a lot of families, paying off a lot of debt. Say what you want to say about Transformation Church and some of the antics that we've seen from Mike Todd for whatever reason, but they have given millions of dollars to really, really great causes and meet local needs there in Oklahoma. So it's like you can, if you're going to point out all the foolishness, like point out everything, you know?
Yes.
All the ways that they've like canceled debt for people, bought homes, bought cars, done just tremendous work. So I think that we have to like have the level of nuance in the conversation. But I don't think that we're afraid to understand that, man, there's a lot that we need to tighten up.
The concept of church as big business is not an Antikemi concept. I'm not saying the concept of the Lord's coffers being full is not an Antikemi concept. Nothing at all wrong with that, with a church having the means to do something great and maybe even I just don't see the problem with doing things at a level of excellence. All of that, but there's just no doubt in my mind that Jesus would flip our tables. Maybe this Druski bit is a little bit of table flipping. It just, our obsession with branding and what we call legacy, by which we really typically mean reputation, standing in the community, all of which can be good. That's the thing about idols.
Mm-hmm.
They're not made from bad things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So anytime it's pointed out, you can say, well, what's wrong with a church having a beautiful building? You're
asking the wrong question.
That is definitely the wrong question, because there's nothing wrong with that. The question is, and I think for the most part, as much as we can, I would hope that this would be an internal question for each local church to be asking themselves more than me asking about them, unless you're called to speak with a prophetic posture. But even then, Jesus, is the one who said, like, I'm not judging you, the word is judging you. So even then, it's like you may speak with a prophetic posture, but that doesn't mean you're sitting there analyzing who it's hitting.
Yeah.
You just know you're speaking into an issue. So for the most part, I would hope this wouldn't be one pastor or one church, giving bombastic side eye to another pastor or another church, but I would hope it would be us getting before the Lord and saying, is this the building you would build here? Is this our budget priorities, what yours would be?
Yeah.
In our city at this time, with what we have, with who we're ministering to? Those are the kinds of questions that I think could lead somewhere. And the truth is that all the cattle on 1,000 hills belong to him, and the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And it's not the will of God, I don't believe, for the church to be operating from a position of lack, but the Bible tells us that there will come a time, and I would argue we've got to be right there, where we will not be able to participate in the monetary system of Babylon.
Right.
And so what does having nothing but possessing everything look like in that environment? What would constitute a church walking in the overflow of being the manifest children of God and being royalty in an environment where we can't use the currency of the culture?
Yeah.
In other words, there's got to be a different way of evaluating riches and impact and provision. And I'm not even, you and I talk about this all the time. I'm not even saying I know what that looks like.
Right.
I just have a strong sense that we've run out of runway. We have to lift off. We have to disengage this way of interfacing with the world.
Yeah.
And this way of moving through it and operating in it. And I think that I think that there is a level on which the next 5 years, if the Lord tarries, are going to be almost unfathomably uncomfortable for the Lord's church. The level of exposure that's happening right now, everything is coming out in the wash. Everything. And Jesus did not stutter. He said that before it's all over, everything secret will be made known. Everything. And so the level of exposure, the level of and you know what, bro? We're going to have to recognize that a lot of icons are going to fall.
Yeah.
And we have to learn how to have this conversation, because I think there's a godly or a well-meaning impulse behind it, where people are saying, well, pastors are people just like everybody else, and they fall short just like everyone else. True, for sure, true. But we don't get to move like everybody else and be pastors and be apostles and be teachers.
Nope.
And having the gift just comes with either being born with it or having it in you by the laying on of hands. And the gift is just the gift. But moving in the office is not a birthright. Nobody has a right to office within the kingdom. We are people just like everybody else. We do fall short just like everybody else. But shepherds that occasionally rape sheep can't be shepherds. Shepherds that occasionally pick off stragglers can't be shepherds.
No. There's no exceptions.
You can be in the flock.
Sure.
We have to learn to differentiate between the grace that saves us from the eternal separation from God that comes from sin,
Yeah.
and license that would enable anybody to act any old way and pretend to represent an extension of the good shepherd's hand and watch over the flock.
Oh,
Your gift doesn't qualify you to do that. Your ability to speak and write doesn't qualify you to do that. Your resume and what you've done for the kingdom doesn't qualify you for that. None of it that. And so we're going to have to learn how to receive people within the flock who no longer qualify to lead it, and love them and forgive them and let their sin be under the blood. But if they need to pay their debt to society, they're going to have to pay their debt to society. And if they
justice still needs to take place.
And if they can't ever approach the sacred desk again,
So be it.
neither can most of you that are out here defending them and saying that, but you don't go climb up there and talk every Sunday. So you know it's not a right. It is absolutely a sacred privilege and a trust. And you can disqualify yourself from it. I don't know why that's controversial. I don't understand how that has become controversial.
Yeah.
Paul's writings are so unequivocally clear on this issue. He was worried he was going to get disqualified. So that's kind of a left turn, but I think it's also not, because the role of priesthood, as my bride was preaching about the other day, the role of priesthood is to teach people to distinguish between the sacred and the common. And you can't treat sacred things as common without opening Christ up and his body up, his bride up, to ridicule. And he has killed over that.
Literally.
Yeah. So it just was sad to me that he didn't have to hardly exaggerate.
That's exactly how I would put it. That's where the cringe comes from, is that you didn't have to go so over the top. And he did, to be fair, he's done this for quite a bit of he's not just picking on the church. I doubt he would really do this for Muslims.
Right.
Probably never going to see that skit.
Right.
But before that, he had done one making fun of the Hebrew Israelites. Mm-hmm. And we all chuckled and laughed. I know I did over that.
It was funny.
But it wasn't that far-fetched either.
Yeah.
With some of the ways that we've interacted with the more extreme versions of people who are in those camps. And I remember even seeing some of their comments of saying, praise be to the Most High. He's just putting more eyes on the mission.
Right.
So even they found a way to flip it.
Yeah.
For their own
copium.
It's a big puff of copium. But I don't think that we can or should, for this particular instance, try to find a way to make this a good thing. I think it's a warning. I think it's a warning in the form of humor. I think it's a warning in a very palpable, bite-sized chunk that the majority of people can digest easily, and should trigger some sort of yo, that's funny, but that's kind of messed up. That's not good. That's not how my granny's church was growing up. Where do we go wrong? You know, like asking those reflection type questions.
Years ago, to that point, in terms of reflection, years ago, I asked a European pastor, he's a guy of African descent, Ghana national, but he was in Italy. And so that's kind of a unique perspective. You come out of the African church, you're pastoring at mostly an African congregation, but you're in Italy. That's just a unique experience. And so I asked him, because he ministers extensively throughout the United States, I asked him, what would be your evaluation of, I think you've heard me ask foreign pastors this question. I usually do. What would your evaluation be of, like, if you could tell the American church, you got to fix this right now, or what's our strength, what's our, He said, man, I think the biggest liability the American church is dealing with is the tax benefit system, the charitable organization system. That answer was such a left hook to me at the time. I was like, what? He was right. The longer I've ministered, the more convinced I am that he was right. Not only that, I'm going to go ahead and make a call right now that folks can put a pin in, but the next couple of years, the next few years, if the Lord tarries, you're going to see, if you're paying attention, you're going to see some stuff that will just blow your mind about the degree to which that system has been leveraged for the grossest forms of fraud and money laundering, tax sheltering, but in not in sincere ways, and the buying and selling of human souls in the sense of peddling influence to a degree you can't fathom. Like the kind of influence that alters the course of human events because you have billions of dollars sitting in these accounts that can make or break the careers of lawmakers, politicians, and judges, and also human trafficking has largely, I believe, run through, I'm going to say, the 501 system. We're going to see some stuff that is going to be shattering. Yeah. If you're paying attention, you're already seeing it, but I already know, like I spoke about to our church on Sunday, that just because I'm seeing it a lot doesn't mean most people are, because information is so siloed.
The way it's funneled, yeah.
But some of the stuff that is it's some of what I'm talking about is some of what I think most of our viewers that have made it this far into an episode are probably people who are at least aware on some significant level that that there's an illusion at work, and that there is a man behind the curtain that we're not supposed to pay any mind to,
Yeah.
and that somebody is working really hard to keep us very distracted right now. I think most people that have made it this far are probably aware that there's people working overtime to keep our attention diverted and divided. One of the things that we are being asked not to look at is exactly that: the charitable, the non-government organizations and charitable religious organizations in our country specifically, and somewhat globally. There's a network of it that represents the underbelly of essentially the beast system.
Yeah.
And a staggering quantity of the earth's wealth has been funneled into that system. These billionaires that are giving away 99% of their net worth, that used to boggle my imagination. I could not understand how anybody at any level of wealth would decide to give away 99% of it and give only 1% of it to their children. The truth is they've given none of it away. None of it. None of it. They have entirely converted that money into a kind of influence you and I can't fathom. They understand that influence is worth far more.
Fast more, yeah.
You know what I mean? So they have, first of all, they still have access to all that money if they want it, because they all have positions on the boards and all that of all those. So they haven't even lost access to the money. Right. But they don't need access to it. They're so wealthy, the kind of wealth they have, they don't need access to it. But if they did, they've got it. But they have converted that money into influence over people's souls. Over people's souls. They own people's souls. Because when people say you sold your soul, it means you allowed somebody to put you in a position you could not have gotten in without them, and you gave them the leverage to take that away from you, and you are too far in to get out. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
And so I'm challenging myself, and I'm offering this challenge to other pastors and preachers and teachers and prophets and apostles and those who are to whom the oversight of the Lord's flock has been entrusted. How long can we continue to function within a system that was built by the Antichrist system to spec? It was designed by the spirit of Antichrist, by Babylon, to spec. So it was, in other words, the way that it functions is specifically in alignment with the way that kingdom functions. Yeah. How long can we continue to function within that without being it? And potentially, have we already crossed that line? Could that have anything to do with why the more successful that ministers become in the constructs that we do church in, the more compromised their soul becomes?
Yeah.
and the less trustworthy they become. And so I think that if we're going to live Antikemi, we're going to have to recognize that some tables we were leaning on may get flipped.
That's such a good way to put it. The tables that we're leaning on. I even love like the quote, like some of the tables that you've been trying to sit at, Jesus would have flipped over.
Who said that?
Oh, I've seen that a few times. I don't know who originally said it, but
That's good.
We're vying for a seat at the table, and Jesus is trying to flip that bad boy over.
That's good.
How we do church has to shift and change. And I would go so far as that it never really changed. Like the model's been there. What he kind of expects us to do as far as being salt and light in this world.
Right.
Truly influential in ways that don't have to circumvent the selling of our soul to darkness. To be able to walk into a space and take over the atmosphere without saying a word. Like, that's influence. Of being that person that is just quietly not doing what everybody else is doing. Just quietly living in Antikemi. And that's eliciting a level of, like, curiosity now. Maybe some contempt, because whatever's inside of you is definitely stirring up whatever's inside of them. And that's okay. And you having enough wherewithal, or how do y'all say it? Chutzpah?
Yeah, that is how we say it.
For you to stand 10 toes down on what you know to be the truth and what you believe. That's just how I think I want to pattern my life. Interestingly enough, and I'm quarter of the way through this book I'm reading called Dominion by Tom Holland.
Okay.
Have you read that?
No.
So Tom Holland, he's like a historian, and he's written a lot, especially on different like empires. And this particular book, he was really detailed in the spread of Christianity. And I'll just leave it like with this. It's interesting because people who consider themselves agnostic or even atheists, who don't have any type of affiliation with any religious ideal, but somehow they want to borrow and take morality from the Christian worldview and co-opt that. And it's like, no. That level of moral clause and that compass that we are living our life by, that is pointed towards a creator who is giving those moral guidelines.
Yeah.
We as humans are very much depraved. And so when you see things like the human trafficking, or you're seeing just horrific crimes against humanity and people acting in certain kind of ways, like, that's what they do. That's a nature that we're trying to live Antikemi against, right? But in this book, it's talking about how the spread of Christianity, those cultures were affected by the spread of Christianity for the better. Women's rights got significantly better with the spread of, when Christianity hit a certain territory, women were treated differently and better than they had been. Now, do we have a long way to go? Probably still, yes. But it's very interesting when you start to kind of look at historically what that footprint has been able to accomplish worldwide with the spread of Christianity. And so while it is a very much easy target and a punching bag and the butt end of a joke for all of the shenanigans and the foolishness that does still occupy our sacred spaces, we need to understand the power and the weight and the responsibility that we still have. Let them laugh. That's fine. There's enough of us, I think, out here doing real work, making real differences, having true, real influence, that the Lord is going to be able to, it's like the wheat and the tares, like let them grow up together. The world may not be able to distinguish them apart until it's time for harvest, and then they will definitely make themselves distinct.
Yes.
One's going to bow down carrying fruit naturally, and the other is going to stand straight up, very proud, with nothing to really show for it.
I can't prove it, but you know that I suspect that we are in the phase of that illustration where Jesus said, let the wheat grow up with the tares. At the last day, he will send forth his angels.
Yeah.
And they will separate the wheat from the tares. Remember that an angel, no, I'm not saying to you, I know you know this, but for some of our listeners, this might be worth reminding that an angel is not an order of being. Yeah. It's a job description. Yeah, when I stand in the pulpit, when you stand in the pulpit, when we are representing the voice that cries from the midst of the candlesticks to our flock, we are the angel to that church. Yes. In that moment.
Yes.
So an angel is a being that is sent. I wonder if we're not in that moment where the angels of the Lord are being sent to point at fruit and call out the lack thereof and separate it. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And Peter said this, 1 Peter 4, Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal among you which comes upon you for your testing, as though some strange thing were happening to you. But to the degree that you share the sufferings of Christ, keep on rejoicing, so that also at the revelation of his glory you may rejoice with exultation. And here's kind of, this hits home when we talk about what's funny and why it's funny.
Yeah.
You know, when we are the butt of the roast, when we are the guest of honor at the roast, yeah. If you are reviled for the name of Christ, reviled not being a word people use every day, but that would, somebody making a skit about you would kind of fall under that.
Right.
If you are reviled for the name of Christ, you are blessed because the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. Make sure that none of you suffers as a murderer or thief or evildoer or a troublesome meddler, a busybody. But if anyone suffers as a Christian, he is not to be ashamed, but is to glorify God in this name. In other words, but when Peter's using the word Christian at that point, it was a pejorative. Nobody was running around being like, I'm a Christian.
Right.
That was, you know, so he's saying, if you suffer as a Christian, glorify God in that name. Be like, yes, sir, I am. For it is time for judgment to begin with the household of God. And if it begins with us first, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? So, and if it is with difficulty that the righteous is saved, what will become of the godless man and the sinner? Therefore, those also who suffer according to the will of God shall entrust their souls to a faithful Creator in doing what is right. So, to whatever degree we're suffering as a thief or a busybody or a murderer, let's not don't shoot the messenger. Just repent. If it hit pretty close to home, let's repent. Let's put some Antikemi on that and decide to make it less relatable next time somebody makes that joke.
Yes, sir.
That if somebody has run into us, they would watch that and be thinking, well, not all Christians. We don't have to say not all Christians. We could just live not all Christians. And then more and more people, as more and more of us take up the Antikemi cause and lie opposite to all that, the next time a comedian makes a joke like that, there'll be more people in the comments going, I don't know. I got some neighbors that are not at all like that.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
There you go. To the point where it's like, this is not even funny anymore.
Yeah. Like, bro, come on. That's not fair.
Right.
And then if somebody still makes fun of us at that point, praise God. That's because of Jesus. And that's all right. They made fun of him too. So what's being pointed at by that skit is that the church has some work to do to finish coming out of Babylon. And right now, we're actually kind of we're in bed with that system in a lot of ways because of the love of gain in this world. Whether that gain is influence and reputation or just money and status or whatever. But we've kind of been, that system has definitely been our side chick for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I have anything I can add to what you just shared.
I got about 3 more left turns in me, but we're at a pretty good time, I think.
Yeah.
I just want people to question the narrative, man. Question the narrative in your mind. Question the narrative in your tribe. Question the narrative in your family. Question the narrative in your political group. Question the narrative. And however imperfectly Druski did it, he kind of questioned the narrative. And so we can make of it whatever we want to. If we want to get in our feelings and get up in arms, or if we want to start roasting the bride, which is not a thing I'm big on.
Right.
We can go those ways, or we could just go, I wish that wasn't as funny as it is. Yeah. How could we go about making that happen?
I think we have our marching orders. If anything, allow this to resonate with you in a way that, like you say, you start to reflect and ask questions. And you ask questions about your part. Like, that's what I'm doing. Like, Lord, what can I do so that way when somebody looks at me, they don't see a caricature of you.
Yes, sir.
They see you.
My God. When someone looks at me, they don't see a caricature of you. They see you.
They see you. Like, let me fade to black. Let me fade away. Let them truly see Jesus, not the sloppy, silly caricature of you that's so easy to portray. Like that. And I think if we all had that mindset, that's being the hands and feet. That's being the body coming together jointly fit. Because we're all pointing to the one image of the Son correctly, shining brightly. I would say shining so brightly they don't see us anymore. They see him. They're seeing him in his radiance and his glory. Like Paul said, I don't care about none of that y'all are. Only thing I'm worried about is Christ and him crucified. Let's talk about that. We talked about that last week. Let's talk about it again and again. And I got 2 more letters coming that's talking about a little bit more of that. That's the only thing that I am here to talk about and care about. We can quibble over the law. We can quibble over the festivals and the harvest and the rituals and the protocols and all of that. And I have my opinions about it. I have things that I feel that should happen. I'm even dictating those things with my own hand. Like scholars believe there's times where he was like, hey, scribe, I got it from here.
Yeah.
I'm going to write this part out myself.
Because he said, I wrote this in my own hand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. But ultimately, are we about our Father's business? Are we concerned about the body being presented flawless, blameless, without spot, wrinkle, or blemish?
That's so good.
That's where my mindset is at. And I know that's where your mind is at as well. And it's our goal that that's something that you leave this conversation thinking about.
This doesn't normally happen to me, man, but just as you were launching into that, I didn't know how long you were going to go. I was going to let you just go because you pulled a me. You got really animated and were dropping, and that was a word. I'm going to go back and listen to that a couple times because that is what the Spirit of the Lord is saying to the church. I'm convinced of it. But I had a prophetic moment right around the time you launched into that. Somebody listening to this, watching this, whatever, somebody is having the internal objection, this is kind of how things are. Like, church is imperfect. You got to understand. And that there's truth in that. Right. Like it is. Right. I don't know that the right way to say it is that it's a human institution, because the church is not a human institution. It's his.
Yeah.
It's his church. But it is an institution with a lot of humanity about it. But I'm telling you this from the Lord, if you can receive it, to whoever that is that's feeling that objection, like, man, it's just, how much change do you expect to see? Yeah. First of all, it does not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that we shall be like him when we see him face to face. So we're supposed to be more and more. But if you can receive it, here's the word. Just because it's always been a certain way, or has been a certain way for a very long time, or has always been a certain way in your experience, does not mean that is how it has to be, and does not mean that is how it is meant to be.
Yeah.
And allowing the master to rip the fabric of the universe you live in is uncomfortable. But he never breaks a vessel down to rebuild it with the same cracks and the same imbalances.
Oh, man, that's good.
And it goes to that you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. That song is about the matrix of this world. It is about there's a lot of theories about what that song is about. I believe the Eagles themselves have indicated that it was about their journey. And I'm sure we'll talk about it again because I find a lot of meaning in it, and I know other people connect to it.
Right.
But I believe they've indicated that it's about, for them, the journey from the innocence of and the ignorance of the early days when it was all for the love of the art and all of that, to stardom and everything that came with that.
Right.
But really, fundamentally, that's just a product of the matrix of this world, which is a false reality overlay. It's not prime reality. It's not the reality of the kingdom of heaven. It is what John St. Julian calls the knowledge of good and evil operating system. It is an operating system. You can have a new operating system installed.
Yes, sir.
And it is the kingdom of this world, which is passing away with all that is in it, which is why John the Revelator said that the word to us was, come out of her. Don't participate in that. So this challenge, if it's coming from him, can't be pointless, and it can't be the effort to join the Exodus can't be a vain effort. He wouldn't have said to do it.
Nope. Live Antikemi.
I feel like we had 3 or 4 closes like on a Sunday.
We love y'all.